Hello, this is Lucy McCall of Avala Mesa Miracles talking about, with As Above, So Below, talking about astrology between April 1st and the 8th, 2022. And this is coming to you from KNCE Radio, Taos, New Mexico, 93.5 FM, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time every Friday. And if you miss it, you can get me on YouTube with As Above, So Below, Lucy McCall, as well as my Facebook page, Lucy McCall. So here we are. I like the way the week looks, even though it's really intense, because we've got 4 conjunctions here, and 2 of them are what they call kazemi or combust. I'm glad the kazemi word is back into our vocabulary, an ancient Greek word for a conjunction to the sun. So with Mercury conjunct Chiron and the sun, and it's just after the new moon, really a day since the new moon. Yes, well, actually early this morning. And a lot of health issues and teaching issues and finding your teachers and finding your health and finding what to do about what needs to happen in your life is going to be paramount and really strong this week. I like the way that looks. It's lovely, and it's going to be a good 2-week energy that's around. And Chiron is known as the wounded healer, but also as the teacher. So there's going to be a lot of exchange of knowledge. Now, when things get close to the sun, as I was studying astrology early in the day in the 60s, it was more like when Mercury conjuncts the sun, especially if Vulcan was involved, which you never hear about Vulcan anymore. And I did have an ephemeris of that a long time ago. But anyway, maybe I still do. But it's kind of like being blinded by the light, was the old idea that your mind is a bit blinded by the light with Mercury combust the sun. And that would be the same perhaps for Chiron, but not so much because it's far away and Mercury just kind of disappears with the sun. But anyway, so it's kind of has a mixed story. It can also be enlightenment in a lot of ways, having the light shine on a issue and you'll be able to see things clearer. There is that. But it's also, like I said, it's it's many things. Well, so with Chiron there, I'm just hoping that this means there's going to be a big change in the healing issues of our country, world, actually, and that there's going to be some maybe good news, hopefully, around these crazy variants going around, that maybe the variants now are representing the fizzling out of COVID-19 and that it's more integrated and we're not going to get so sick and we know what to do about it. I think one of the things that has come out of COVID-19, and more than I've seen with a lot of things, is just the holistic part of how to take care of a problem. And it's like we now know, zinc and vitamin C and quercetin and some herbs like osha and some other things are very helpful to a virus or a cold, and that could be just generally used. Also, I think there's been an interesting perception about vaccinations, good or bad. I've been walking on the midpoint for a long time with this because I'm just so holistic. It's hard for me to get totally medical about things, but I've had to occasionally, and that's just my nature. I'm not going to tell anybody else how to do it, except I do always encourage the natural part no matter what you choose. But anyway, I just think we're going to have a lot of wake up this time period, these 2 weeks, around that understanding. Okay, and so at the same time, we're also having the new moon on April Fool's Day. Gosh, somebody told me the story of April Fool's the other day. Now I forgot what it was, but where it came from. Oh wait, yeah, that's what it was. It was that fellow Renstrom, another astrologer, talking about that when the calendar changed from January 1st to April 1st. No, I'm sorry. It changed from April 1st to January 1st. It started with kind of being more of an equinox New Year is how people used to perceive in Europe, and now it's perceived as January, and it was changed by a king, probably a king, or was it a pope? He didn't remember either. Anyway, named Gregory. So the Gregorian calendar, of course, came out of that. And when we have, what happened is that if people still believed the new year was on April 1st, they were considered a fool. So that's where that came from, apparently. So it's a good story. And anyhow, here we are, April Fool's Day, people joking with each other and carrying on. Hopefully the jokes are relatively kind and not mean. But with a Mars conjunct Saturn coming up just here on April 4th, and we're moving towards it, there's definitely an edge to things. Even though there's hardly any squares this week, and they're pretty temporary, except for on Monday, April 4th, when it happens, which is being squared by the moon. That's kind of rough. Mars conjunct Saturn is definitely what I think most astrologers are considering why the war started over there in Russia, Ukraine. And I was listening to astrologers again. I listen to a lot of different astrologers because I love to get more knowledge. That Venus was kind of trapped between Mars and Saturn, and it kind of reminded me of just the way it looks with Ukraine. I think of Ukraine as the beautiful folk music, and I think of all the agrarian activities, all their grain and their fruit, and just a lot of good food, and how when they celebrate their traditional stuff, how they have these huge flowerful, wreaths that are bigger than anything you see anywhere with flowers. And I just, it's like Venus being trapped, and then just the honor and the glory of all kinds of people who are generally agrarian going out and say, okay, we're going to stop these Russians. Okay, so there's that whole thing with that. And with Venus moving on, there is hope that means there is going to be some understanding and a breakthrough. But then there's always the problem with Mars conjunct Saturn at this point is on Putin's North Node, making him want to go that way anyhow, because Saturn was there first and then Mars. And so it's a rough thing. It's a mixed bag, and that's what these times are like. We're in such mixed time. And I've seen that before. Actually, when I was born, there was a lot of mixed astrology of extreme good and bad, and I can relate to it very well because that's been my life. And maybe a lot of other people feel that way, but some people have more extreme lives than others. And the Mars conjunct Saturn is just like two of the male forces. It's definitely patriarchal. And if you put Mars and Saturn together in some ways, like when Mars is in Capricorn, you have someone who's a hard worker and really on it and get a lot of things done. And it's a real blessing to have Mars in Capricorn. And also Capricorn can kind of chill out that Mars. But we don't have Mars in Capricorn right now. We have Mars conjunct Saturn. And it is an Aquarius, which could possibly, since that's the ancient sign rulership of Saturn, it could possibly have a similar energy, that it's just a hard-working thing like that. But it is also considered warlike. We also have Mercury sextiling Saturn and Mars this week, which hopefully will bring some mental clarity as to what in the world is going on with that aggression anyway. And hopefully with the people who are actually creating it. That would be the blessing altogether. And then we have Venus going into Pisces, and that's an exalted place for Venus, and it's moving towards the rulership of Pisces conjunct alignment with Jupiter and Pisces, and it's moving towards Neptune, where Neptune is also rulership. So, people have been looking forward to this time as some big spiritual awakening, I guess, and and it does bring that. The last time it happened was the spiritualist movement, and also Blavatsky and oh gosh, I forget his name all the time. The guy everyone thought he was Jesus for a minute. Anyway, that kind of awareness was happening back then. Kerchief, and a big spiritual movement shifted in Pisces then, back in 1856. So that is really a very powerful thing that could be happening right now, where we're going to have more spiritual awakening. Problem with that sometimes is when you go into what might be considered rapturous enlightenment, is delusional. The other side of every coin is something. And this one, it can be delusional. As someone, I'm born with a Venus in Pisces, it's going to conjunct me. I'm like, okay, where's my enlightenment? But also the Mars-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius is also squaring me. So I figure, okay, I'm going to have 2 feet in both worlds with this. And so far, yes, I do. And I would think with everyone else that you're going to have that, whether it's hooking up to your planets directly or not, there's going to be something of that for everyone in this next month. I thought at one point when I was thinking about this time to come, that's a very powerful time, that actualization can be Mars, Saturn, and Aquarius. It can be the actualization of this enlightenment of the Jupiter, Neptune, Venus, Pisces. They don't all come together at once, but they're just coming together near enough. And on the last one being on May 1st, which I think is wonderful. I love Beltane. It's a powerful time. I'll just say that. It's an extreme time. We actually could really make a huge change in our whole planetary lookout of everything at this point. And so I'm hoping for the best. I hope we just have a great conscious awareness. Okay, well, I'm already talked 12 minutes. Got to keep on with this. I'll just kind of run down the days real quick. Okay, so today was the new moon, April Fool's Day, haha. Sun conjunct Chiron. Big awakening on the medicine and the people of who are teachers, and who your teachers are, and whether or not you also may be a teacher. And the moon is in Revati today. One of the best times for spiritual awakening and consciousness is on Revati. Every month, when the sun is in midpoint Aries onto the end, that's when we have the Revati moon every month, and it's sidereal Pisces, Western Aries. Saturday, April 2nd, the moon is, we're also having sundown on this day, and I was loving seeing that this fella, Samuel Reynolds, talking about how the Ramadan is actually, the sundown of the moon on the new moon, and it's actually is judged by looking at it, not just by the degrees of the ephemeris. So I love that. It's something you have to see, and that starts Saturday evening. And the Mercury is conjunct Chiron on this day, and the Sun is conjunct Mercury. It's the Cazimi of Mercury, and so be aware of enlightenment. The moon in Ashwini, also the head of the horse, is considered a time of going forward and being very spiritually conscious about going forward. So it's a good Ramadan day to start. And then we have Sunday, April 3rd. The moon is close to Bharani, the divine triangle, and this is a good day for relationships, marriages, and such. Moon is conjunct Uranus near noon, so hopefully for an enlightenment around noon on Sunday. Monday, April 4th. That day is charged for me. It is my birthday. And speaking of that, I'd like to go back a bit. And I forgot to mention that my youngest son's birthday was on March 30th. And he's a very active man involved in a lot of changes on our planet with just trying to help change nature rights for the world and for the rivers especially. So happy birthday to Tanya on March 30th. But anyway, then my birthday again, jumping around, Monday, April 4th. This is when Mars is conjunct Saturn. So any of us with birthdays this day, oh boy, it's going to be a year of intense wake up for sure. Probably a lot of work anyway. Hopefully it won't be too extremely difficult. The North and South Node do square it, so there's something about destiny there. And there's something about just it could be very intense. It could be an easy year to get angry and things like that for anybody born that day. So yeehaw. But also the moon is near the Pleiades, and that's kind of an edgy place. It's luckily not too close to Uranus, but it does conjunct, the North and South is squaring, the moon conjuncts the North Node, and it is squaring the Mars-Saturn, so it's going to be an intense time altogether for us that day. Now, Tuesday, April 5th, Venus goes into Pisces, and this brings in a nice sweetness. This is happening when the moon is close to Aldebaran or Rohini. One of the best days to plant, one of the best days to get married, one of the best days for anything to happen, really, they say. It's where they say the moon is happiest. So on the day that Venus goes into Pisces, that just sounds really lovely. April 5th people are going to have an easier time than April 4th people. And then Wednesday, April 6th, is the moon is close to Orion. And this is a very happy, joyous day. Another good day to plant. Even though the moon is in Gemini, as it was on Tuesday, it's still a very good day to plant. And being that it's a new moon, it's a good day to plant the annuals. And then we have moon sextile the sun, moon sextile Mercury. The moon is going to be squaring the Jupiter-Neptune alignment. So it can be a little spacey that day, unclear about some stuff. But it'll be a good day altogether. Thursday, the moon is close to Ardra Betelgeuse. That often brings weather changes. The Mercury is sextiling Saturn, so we get some good energies with Saturn and Mars, because the next day Mercury sextile Mars. So with Mars, Saturn conjunct sextiling Mercury, it just sounds like people are going to be very direct and conscious about what they need to say, what they need to voice. One thing we have to watch out for is the things like the slap or whatever. We have to watch out for people being a little too aggressive. And also we have to be conscious that sometimes when the media wants to make a big deal about an emotional trip that some celebrity's going through, which we all go through at some point, that this is not the priority in the world. Other things are more important, such as climate change and wars. We have to think about that. Now on Friday, next Friday, the moon will be close to Purnavasa or Castor Pollux. And this is a good day to study spirituality, any old day. Wonderful to study the books of knowledge. Now, the moon being in Cancer, Western, it does trine at some point, the South Node in Scorpio and Jupiter-Neptune in Pisces. So that is going to be an especially conscious day of feeling things. Check out your deep feelings. A lot will happen. Okay, so got to get through this, so I'm not taking up too much time of the wonderful DJs with their lovely music. I want to talk a little bit about how Mars, Aries, also the rulership of Aries, Mars, I've considered it, and some people do, I've considered it a very important immune planet. It represents that part of us that fights within ourselves. It fights off infection. People with strong Mars usually have a very strong immune system. If it's squared a lot, it might go into autoimmune, because that's when that's when the immune system goes into overdrive, which a Mars square is like overdrive. So that is a problem. So you have to be more careful than maybe others about just getting too excited about taking care of your immune system and then making it go into what they call a cytokine storm. But generally Mars planets, Mars plants, two that I can think of right now is echinacea and garlic. Now, echinacea is one you only want to do for 3 days, isn't it? You might have heard that before. And that is actually information from the indigenous, an indigenous man to this continent, Ute fellow, who told me that, and I think that's really important information because, even more than usual, because echinacea is native to North America. And it's especially the strongest one, the angustifolia, which might grow around, it does grow around like Devil's Tower and different places in the Midwest. And we have to be careful about harvesting in the Midwest because the Midwest has been poisoned. So you have to be careful about eating out of the Midwest anyway because all the poisons. That's another thing altogether. But anyway, Mars does really echinacea, I feel, even though it's not in the old books, it just does. I feel deeply about that. It also has a bite to it and it has little sharp leaves. So, and most of the colors are in the reddish range, purple, red, though there are white ones and yellow ones. There's a lot of different echinaceas. So, but the strongest, they say, so far that we know about is the angustifolia. So anyhow, and then the other thing to look at is how garlic is ruled by Mars. Another big antibiotic, fights infection. It is used in cancer cures even in some cases. It's just a very powerful medicine. I trust it immensely, and it's a wonderful thing that it grows all over the planet. And in Ayurveda, they don't like to use it much. They say it's too rajasic, too intense. But I think it fits right into how we are in this country. We're kind of intense. So anyway, there you go. I think Mars and garlic are good. And so that's what I want to talk about with Mars today, is just the immune system, how it represents that part of us that fights. Okay, so many blessings and have a good week.